Because an error in judgment means, to me, you have wisdom, you have knowledge, you have some of the whatever it is that you need to make a decision, make a choice, whatever it is, and you make the wrong one. But lacking in judgment, not even having it and feeling the latitude to go ahead and make that decision anyway, is a completely different ballgame.
Well, welcome back to another episode of What to Say and How to Say It. We're with Kyle Hargrove, licensed professional counselor. And today we're going to be talking about a number of things, but some people that you are and you know. And we're going to start off with somebody that we would call foolish. And I don't mean to insult anybody, but I will be the first to admit that there are times in my life when I thought I knew something, and I guess, okay, so I didn't. I just didn't. I thought I did, but I was acting on it, right? And so that, it was good intentioned foolishness, right? And that's something we're going to talk about, because our foolishness impacts our behaviors sometimes, and then it impacts our relationships. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine today, and I said, "So, how do you know the difference between foolishness and evil?" And he says, and simple-minded, right? Because if you look at Proverbs, you got all that plus the wise person in there. Yes. And he says, so much of it comes down to intention. Evil, we don't have to worry about intention. Foolishness, that's a little bit up for grabs. So anyway, this all impacts our relationships. And so I wanted to get us off, started out of the gate, at least with some heavy thoughts around that and some weird ones. And then we're just going to move right into this. So Kyle, you probably see some of this in your practice. You've lived longer than a minute. So, what are some of the things that you see commonly out there?
Are you calling me old?
No, I'm calling you wise.
Thank you.
You've earned it.
Thank you. I wish my children would learn to communicate in the same way that you do. So.
Well, it may have been foolish or simple-minded me to start down that path the way that I did, but I think I wisely saved it.
Yeah. Well, that it's interesting when I read Proverbs 26, I think of the comedy bit, you're a redneck when, or, something, you're a redneck. So I was thinking about that again. You're in trouble if you read Proverbs 26 and it reads like a biography and it's yours.
Oh. Yes, I have it right here.
Yes, if Proverbs 26 reads like an autobiography and it's yours, you're in trouble.
Just as damaging as a madman shooting a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, "I was only joking."
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
There are a few things that you expect in there, and if you haven't read it in a while or forgotten what's in there, that was going to be in there. Yeah, I knew that one. Oh, I didn't realize that one was in there. I forgot or didn't know. And it can be a little bit telling sometimes. It's one thing when someone tells on you. It's another thing when you tell on yourself. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, reading the fine points of the scripture can often present that opportunity.
Yeah, no kidding. I have a particular one in here that I love. Well, I like them all, right? But interfering in someone else's argument is as foolish as yanking a dog's ears. Like, how many people do you know? And I've done this, thinking, oh, I want to help. That's stupid. Like, just stay out of their fight.
Yeah.
Not include you.
And last week when we were talking about every disagreement doesn't have to become a fight, doesn't have to be an argument, and that, again, it's one thing when you're having your own thing, your own interaction that involves conflict, but it's another thing when you step into someone else's. And it reminds me of the thing that I read last week that said, you don't have to attend to every argument you're invited to. And, or if that you're not invited to.
Yeah, there's that.
But, where are some of the places that you can think of where we find that specific issue way more than we might think or want to, in terms of people sticking their noses where they don't belong.
Yeah. For me, this is the personal tell. Okay. I'm just going to wrap myself out here. I had this notion that I could help my children and my husband get along better, or I could help my children get along with each other better. And that was true when they were young, right? Now, I don't know that my husband really needed my help most of the time, but the older they got, and then when they're teenagers, that was just not useful. And so a maturity space in me, instead of being controlling, was to shift out of that and just be an advisor, right? And so somebody would come to me and say, well, so-and-so, and I'd validate and I'd listen and have to be careful with that, because otherwise they'd go back and say, well, mom said that you're wrong, basically. No, I don't know what I said was that I understand how you feel, it makes sense. I understand. That doesn't mean that I'm agreeing with your sister. Okay. It does that, or with you over her, whatever it is. But there's that piece of it. And I even, when I was working, I had students at the college whose parents would send me emails about their students' participation in my college course.
Yes.
And I'm like, number one, I'm dealing with an adult, and it's kind of like HIPAA. It's not exactly, but it's like, I can't talk to you about their situation. So right. Thank you, but no. And then, well, I pay the bills. I'm sorry, your student needs to talk to me about their issue, which they already were. And most of the time it was, they weren't doing the work, So this parent would insert themselves into this thing, right? And it's just, I had less respect for that person. So I've been on both sides of the fence there, and I've noticed that it's a really quick way to increase the amount of disrespect somebody has for you by meddling with their thing.
Right. I think there's a price to be paid in credibility as well. Mm-hmm. And that's something that most of us regard pretty highly when it comes to our own. Mm. I would like to be seen as credible in several different ways, as a spouse, as a parent, as a therapist, as a man, and so I think the more times we interject or inject ourselves into situations that don't belong to us, try to maybe appear to be a little more important than we really are. Mm-hmm. Who's it really for when this happens? I guess is where I'm getting.
Yeah.
When someone is that person, who are they really doing that for? And there's usually something in it for them that's a little bit covert.
It's interesting you bring that up. I had somebody a number of years ago when I was working somewhere, and I'm from Montana. I'm a northerner, so I can tend to be pretty direct, especially as a woman, but I'm also fairly respectful. But this person was not from the North. And I think I just regularly made her feel very uncomfortable. And she had some concerns about me interacting with this team because of a problem. And she's like, well, let me just take care of it. Let me just go to them. And I'm like, no, I think I can handle this. She's like, well, and it made me think less of her, but it was pretty clear that she thought I was going to go just, be a bull in a china shop or something. And the team didn't have a problem with me. We had a great relationship, but she was so nervous about any potential conflict there. And it really it plugged everything up, slowed everything down. And finally I just said, look, here's what I'm going to do. And I just kind of said, no, and moved her to the side. But when you think about it, you're basically telling somebody, I don't think you're capable of doing this thing with this person.
Yeah. And who wants to hear that?
Nobody.
Yeah. You'd like to think that you have the maturity and the ability to work something out with another individual. And so when someone else sticks their 2 cents worth or their truth in love into the situation, it usually runs things sideways in a real hurry.
Yeah, it does. I had a parent call me one time with my oldest son, and he's wonderful. He's married now, grandchild for me, awesome stuff. And he's creative, right? He's in the music industry, and he produces artists and helps them make a living at their craft. And it's really awesome. But he was, as a teenager, he was kind of out there, he was out there as far as still conservative Christian. I mean, he wasn't like out there as secular society would think he was out there, but I do know he made some of the real conservative people at our church pretty nervous about.
I guess so.
Yeah. Like, oh, there's multiple colors on his shirt, kind of thing, or whatever. Not quite.
Part of his jeans are missing. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, or he had some interesting clothing. Like there were artistic things. There wasn't anything inappropriate about it. It was just kind of things you wouldn't see in suburban ruralish Ohio, So, but anyway, this gal that he was dating, her mother called me one time, and they're like 17 years old. And she says, you need to tell your son to back off calling my daughter. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, he's calling her late at night. And, they're on the phone till, late, 2 a.m, something like that. And she can't get up and go to school the next day. And I listened to this woman rant to me about my son's terrible behavior and all this stuff. And finally I said, yeah, it sounds like it's really frustrating for you. She said, yes, it is. I said, and you want your daughter to have, this great senior year of high school experience, and she's not making it to class. She's exhausted. And she's like, yeah, and I don't want her spending all this time with this boy. So you need to tell him to settle down. I said, you know what? I respect where you're coming from. And if I had a daughter that age, I might be having the similar thoughts. I said, I'm also not going to tell him anything. And she's like, what? What? And I said, yeah, your daughter's going to be going to college next year, right? And she goes, well, yeah. I said, I think she needs a stronger no. I said, I don't think it serves her for you and I to get in the middle of this. And if she's going to be going to college, she's going to need to say no to the people around her and be confident in her ability to do that. And she goes, well, she's not wanting to do that. I said, well, that is then your problem and her problem and not my problem. She goes, so you're not going to talk to him? I said, no, I'm not. She goes, well, they need our help. I said, no, they don't. They need to figure this out on their own. And just so you know, I tend to kind of check out of my kids' relationships about age 8. So when they have trouble, they know they can come to me for advice or, coaching, but I'm not going to go solve their problems for them unless they invite me into it, which my kids have done. They said, hey, I've got this argument. Will you come talk to me with so-and-so? And I'll go do problem solving negotiation with them. But everybody wanted me there. Right. So this, oh my gosh, she was so mad at me. She hung up on the phone and all that stuff, but it wouldn't have done anybody any good, and nobody would have learned anything.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel bad. This might sound terrible, but I don't feel bad at all about not doing that.
I think a lot of people at least skirt the edge of being foolish as parents when they over involve themselves in their children's lives. Mm-hmm. The hover mothers, the helicopter parents, the people who take care of everything for their children to the extent that their kids can't make a decision for themselves. Yeah. They can't function at any level of thinking deeper than whatever normal and natural is, because they've not been asked to do that. It's not been expected of them at home, and sometimes at school as well.
Well,
so
then
I think that knowing that you're doing that, because maybe people with the wisdom to pour that into you have tried to do so, and yet you reject it, and you continue to run the life of your child, obviously age appropriately, or in this situation, age inappropriately.
Yeah.
I think that's foolish. And I think that the end result is a lot of heartache, a lot of late teens and 20 somethings that feel like they're not good enough and they can't hack it. They can't tolerate and make it in this life as an adult.
Right.
They've not made decisions for themselves. Every answer has either been given to them by their parents or by Google. And the ability to function independently is limited, to say
Mhm.
the least.
No, I think you're right. And I also at the same time think I have a really biased viewpoint in this because growing up in Montana, it didn't matter what gender you were. You went to hunter safety.
Right.
They hand a rifle to you as a 12-year-old. You've taken the class, you've shot. I think I took it in my school. Okay. And yeah, right. In
Instead of
fourth
driver's
grade.
ed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And at fourth grade, we did orienteering for gym. They took us out in the middle of the woods in the mountains and dropped us off. What are you, like 9? And we're wandering around with a compass and water and a snack and a pencil. And you got to find all the things. The last thing on the thing was make your way back to the bus. You got to find all the stuff and that helps you get back to the bus. You think about doing that now. I don't know if they do that now, but that was part of the public school thing that I went through because
Oh,
you die if you don't know how to have basic survival skills. So how does this apply? Well, it's just a mindset, right? So I've got 2 boys, one's 26, one's 23, both of them Eagle Scouts. Both of them went through all this stuff. And when they started going to Boy Scout camp, I very quickly learned as a woman, and even with my background, I do not want to know what you're doing. I thought I was.
They did not want you to know what they were doing. So
well, and then
it works
now
both ways.
yeah, and they torture me with some of those stories. Now I'm like, nope, I'm still not ready to hear any of that. Like people could have died. I just don't want to know. And I'm watching some like 1883 and Yellowstone and these, and it's really like that. That not that I think people should be wandering around solving their problems with guns and stuff, but to your point, people have been a lot tougher, and we have it so easy. Google, man,
Yeah.
it's just we're thin-skinned and foolish all the way around on so many levels. Me too, though.
Yeah. I mean, it affects all of us. There's no doubt about it. To even have imagined 30 years ago that we'd all be walking around with more computer power in our pocket than existed, when NASA was sending rockets to the moon. We have more computer power in our digital watches than they did in that entire spacecraft. I mean, theirs was a lot bigger than a watch, but it wasn't as powerful as what our watches can do, much less our smartphones.
I think they still solved a problem with duct tape.
I believe they did. and man, I have watched that movie so many times, and I've used that clip from Apollo 13 more times than I can tell you in counseling and training, when say we can look at this situation with fairy dust on it all day long if you want to, or we can look at the reality of what we have to work with. The objective is the same, but there's only one way we're likely to get to it, and that's to use what we have realistically to get from here to there. You mean we're going to make that out of this, tonight? That was a great example. Well, I have a question. When we threw this concept of people acting foolish or being foolish or so forth out there to kind of mull around for a few minutes before we started the podcast, a thought went through my mind, because there are, to me, being foolish means lacking judgment. And judgment, prudence, wisdom, things along those lines. So the question I have is, which do you think is more acting a fool? Is it lacking in judgment, or is it making an error in judgment?
Oh, definitely lacking.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too, because an error in judgment means, to me, you have wisdom, you have knowledge, you have some of the whatever it is that you need to make a decision, make a choice, whatever it is, and you make the wrong one.
Right.
But lacking in judgment, not even having it and feeling the latitude to go ahead and make that decision anyway, is a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, it is. There's in Proverbs 26, there's one of those is about that that talks about, oh geez, probably won't get it right, but it's something about they think they're wise.
Yeah.
And they're not. And of course, I can't find it right now, but when you move forward in space where you don't have, I'm sitting here thinking, are you doing that now, Nina? Yeah, I know it's in here.
But a lot of judgment comes with maturity, and maturity comes with living life for a certain period of time and going through experiences. So I'm wondering if, to a certain point, are we all fools? Because we do lack judgment in certain ways. And we have to listen to, and I think that's one of the points in Proverbs about the fool refuses wise counsel.
Yes.
The fool wants to be honored for what they think is wisdom.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're told, no, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't go there with them. If they want you to go there, you gotta stand strong. You gotta have a stronger no.
Well, and it's both sides of this, right? Because this is one of my favorite things in the Bible, because it says exactly the opposite. And it's right next to each other. So there's like no way you can miss that. This says this one thing and this says exactly the opposite. And
a little sarcasm, isn't it?
Well, kind of, yeah. 26:4, don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you'll become as foolish as they are. Be sure to answer the foolish arguments of fools, or they will become wise in their own estimation. So you do, and then you don't. Well, how do you know? Well, you got to know. You got to know what you're supposed to do in that situation based on what is the Holy Spirit telling you. And then you also have some track record around this too.
Right. One direction or the other.
You and I talked a little bit about trust at the beginning too.
Yes. And the track record has to sit on one side or the other. A track record of having and exhibiting a measure of wisdom consistently, or having and exhibiting a lack of judgment consistently. And so when we're asked to weigh in on a scenario, whether it's, because let's be honest about this. This discussion includes sometimes people that live in our houses, under our roofs. Sometimes this discussion includes people who have the same last name that we do, and they came from us. Yeah. They were created by us, the people that are their parents. Some people, sometimes it's the parents. It can be anybody, and I think just that desire that we have to make it on our own, to do something without consulting the better judgment of people who've been through things and who understand scenarios because of their experience. And I don't care how much you say that a person is wise beyond their years, there are certain things you cannot be wise beyond your years about. You have to have the years in. Yeah. You have to have the experience in the years to have wisdom. Wisdom isn't about what you know. Wisdom is about what you've been through, what you've walked through yourself. Anything else is knowledge, and knowledge is good, especially if it's right. Yeah. But wisdom is about what you've lived and
the application.
Survived.
Yeah, the survival, the application of that knowledge. Like, you can be book smart, and we all have that friend. Maybe we are that guy or gal, really intelligent, not so good, in life, not making great decisions and that kind of thing. One of the things that we talked about too is how foolishness shows up in our decision making with other people. And I'm kind of a book junkie, and I'm reading a book on trust right now, because I think that is one of the big myths of Christendom, is that, okay, I've forgiven you. You hurt me. I forgave you. You apologized, or maybe you didn't, but whatever, I forgave you, and fools think, okay, well, you need to trust me now. Yes. No, or it might even be foolish of me to think, okay, I can trust you now. No, like, where's the evidence that anything is any different?
Yeah. And there are certain things in certain situations where, it's imperative sometimes for somebody to move on, that they forgive somebody, but it's not even necessary to carry on a relationship with them, much less trust them.
Right.
Or expect things to go back to the way they once were.
Yeah.
It's not the best idea a lot of the times. Now, I've mentioned to you before that it's my opinion that the advice and the adage that we get of forgive and forget is one of the poorest pieces of advice ever handed down. Because although forgiving is a healthy thing to learn about and learn how to do, forgetting is a foolish thing.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting or pretending to forget or acting like we've forgotten simply sets us up to go through the same pain we just forgave.
Yeah.
Another time or 10 down the road.
Right. And at the same time, so there's, oh gosh, I got like 28 thoughts. And one of them can come out at a time. So you got on one side of this, you get this thing of, okay, I'm not going to forget this, but I'm also not going to hang on to bitterness because I've forgiven you for that. And that's not my problem anymore. I canceled the debt. I'm done with that. I'm not going to think about it. It doesn't hurt anymore. I'm over it. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to make a decision that then, here, take my car keys because you wrecked it the last 3 times you drove it. No, that's foolishness on my part. I'm going to make different decisions until there's some sort of evidence that says I'm wise to do this thing with you, or that you're safe, or I could trust you. And people don't get that. They think, oh, I've forgiven you, now I have to trust you. And they're naturally resistant to it also, but they don't understand it. And I think we don't do a very good job of explaining those are 2 totally different concepts.
They are. But I think a lot of people feel like they can't forgive because they can't trust.
Yeah.
I can't trust you, so I can't really fully forgive you. That's backwards.
Exactly.
Okay. And they really are independent issues, the forgiveness and the trust. And also, I think as many people as not misunderstand who forgiveness is for.
Yeah. Talk about that. That's
well,
cool.
we talk about forgiveness being necessary in a situation. And if forgiveness is about someone accepting what you're offering, then you're at their mercy. If they accept your apology or your request for forgiveness, then great. Things can move forward, hopefully. But if they don't, what do you do then? If forgiveness is about that person,
right,
the person I wronged, okay? If I'm asking forgiveness from you because I stole your peanut butter and jelly sandwich at lunch because I want you to feel better about me, and you have the choice of saying, okay, Kyle, I forgive you for that. Or, oh no, about that. I will never forgive you for taking a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, I'm at the mercy of you accepting it or not. Forgiveness is about, if I'm coming to you to ask for forgiveness, it's about me doing my part to make something right, both in the relationship and between me and God. If I'm asking for your forgiveness, I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need to make it right vertically and horizontally. And that's what it's about. It's about me being able to live with myself because I've made the right choices in my heart and then put them into actionable things in the relationships and in the interaction that goes on afterward.
Yeah. No, that's really, really true.
It's not an easy concept to grasp all the way around. And part of that is because it's not what we're taught when we're children. We're taught to say you're sorry.
Yeah, say you're sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, everything's good, right? Oh. But we take that, the words matter, especially at that age. We take that concept to say, I told you I was sorry. Well, you don't act like you're sorry, and then, suddenly we have chapter 2 of the same conflict.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because it is chapter 2. of the same conflict. I have a couple people that I'm working with where one of them is just like, he won't forgive me for, I apologize for this and, I apologize for that. And he's like, well, I don't forgive you yet. And then I said, well, okay. She goes, well, how do I get him to do that? I said, stop caring about it. This is not your problem. You've done the right thing according to you. You've owned what you did. You've apologized for it. You might ask him, what is it that you need to be able to forgive me? But even that is not yours to give to him. That's between him and God, but his lack of forgiveness is sin. And so you don't have to own any of that. Right. Nobody likes to hear that either, but it is relieving to people who are held under this judgment of somebody else's unforgiveness, as if they're supposed to do something more when they've done all that they're supposed to do with that. So
imagine the surprise on my children's face. I think the first time I said this, one of my kids was maybe 14 or 15, one of my sons. And imagine the surprise on their face when something happened and we dealt with it, and child A says, Dad, I'm sorry. And Dad, terrible dad I was, because I turn around and say, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. But I said I was sorry. I said, you said you were sorry. I'll believe you're sorry when I start seeing a different choice being made.
Yeah, that's repentance.
Yeah. That's, you're apologizing for the uncomfortableness and the awkwardness of the situation, not for your choice.
Gotcha.
I'll know you're sorry when this doesn't have to happen again. When we don't have this discussion again about this issue, then I'll know you're sorry. And I'll tell you, thank you. I believe you.
See, I don't think that was a terrible dad moment.
Oh, I don't either. But
okay. Okay. Gotcha. I had the beholder then. Got it.
I've had other people say, well, that was a bit harsh. I said, no, it's not really harsh. It's truth.
Yeah.
It's truth I'm trying to teach my children. And the truth is, what you do is what you believe, and indicates what's truly in your heart. The rest is just talk.
Right.
What I see you do, what you do on a consistent basis. We all make errors in judgment, mistakes, but what I see you do on a consistent basis tells me the truth.
Yeah.
Anything inconsistent with that builds you up, it's just chirping, it's chatter.
Yeah. We know who other people are by their behavior. That's
no matter what they tell us or try to convince us of.
Exactly. By what they do or don't do.
Right. Yeah. And I'm guilty. I've done that myself. I've probably countless times.
Yeah.
Where my behavior said one thing and I said, yeah, but that's not really what I believe, or that's not what I meant to happen. That was not my intent. And that's another, one of those shocking looks when in therapy, the therapist looks at someone and says, yes, but in this situation, your intent is irrelevant.
Yes.
You did it. And it's not the first time you've done it, and or said it, or whatever the case might be. Our intent is irrelevant unless our actions match it.
I like that. That's so true. Very true. Well, there's lots of ways to be foolish here. Lots of.
I still have plenty in my own pockets.
Yeah. Well, and the neat thing is learning that Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature with God and with men. And so I'm kind of glad they didn't give us the details around that, but just that one sentence, grew in wisdom, and we have this expectation around being Christians and followers of Christ that we're to grow and be transformed. So that then means, you know what, I'm doing the best I can. I want to learn. I want to own my mistakes. I want to not hurt people. I'm still going to do it, but I don't want to be foolish about it. I want to be wise. And so, and I love that Proverbs tells us, go hot after that wisdom. Now that's really loosely translated right there. Sorry. But when you seek after Lady Wisdom, man, there's nothing but benefit in that long term, even short term. So.
But you know what gives me hope is just one example of things that give me hope are the 12 disciples, and knowing what
Yeah.
totally jacked up units they were.
Yeah.
We somehow put them in this aura of, godly, incredible men. And I think ultimately their experiences with Jesus did make them godly, incredible men. But to begin with, man, they were a set of dumpster fires. I mean, hot messes. But that's encouraging to me, because sometimes I'm that same hot mess.
Yeah.
And I have to have somebody follow me around with an extinguisher at times as well. But it gives me hope that those are the ones he chose to be with him. And they were so imperfect, and they were so messed up. And sometimes so am I.
Oh, that's me on a daily basis.
Say, so are you, but I'm not going to say.
I know. Everywhere we go, there we are, and we're still human.
If there's a chance for redemption for people like they were, there's a chance for me too.
Yeah. No, that's legit. That's legit. I love this topic. We're gonna have to talk more about this whole wisdom, foolish thing and relationships and all of that. Great.
I gotta get some wisdom then. Okay.
Okay. Me too.
I'll call you when I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess we're not doing that because I don't have enough either. So anyway, but no, thank you so much for the discussion. And if you guys want to learn more about deepening your relationships, connecting more deeply with God, yourself, and other people, head on over to greaterimpact.org. We have a free ebook for you called 5 Tools to Stop Walking on Eggshells. So if you got conflict in your life, you don't know what to do with that, go ahead and go on over there, greaterimpact.org, and grab your free ebook, and we'll see you online.